Hi, everyone. So glad you could join us. Welcome to our event, Louisiana Creole Research Association's Coffee and Cousins, under the title Be a Storyteller, Discovering and Writing Your History. I am Chantel Nabon. I am board chair, and on behalf of our organization and our board, we are elated to welcome you to our first in-person activity in 2 years. And thanks again for venturing out and electing to join us today. Coffee and Cousins was an idea of a longtime member, Gwen Bordenave, where the concept of meeting and greeting your cousin, talking to each other over coffee, which is routine behavior here in New Orleans. And it was a great opportunity for members to come together and make their connections, especially with genealogy. So we thank her for that thought about it happened in 2015 in a Gentilly New Orleans restaurant, actually. Yeah, and Giovanna was there to host that one, but it pretty much happened every year since 2017. And we've been everywhere. We've been to Hammond, we've been to New York, a little satellite group there, Algiers, Slidell, and our most ambitious venture was online. We did a Zoom Coffee and Cousins in 2020. So what happens is our members are offered to host it, and then if you're a member, you have an idea and a place and space for us to meet. We try and do that once a year, and it kind of fulfills one of our goals, our programming goals, to have something open to the public for everybody to share. We're proud to say that Coffee and Cousins is one of the most successful activities that we have where folks can connect and our guests are introduced to La Creole and what we do, and it helps us to welcome them to membership. So thank you again to all of you who are members and non-members. I'd like to acknowledge our programming committee. Our committee chair is Mia James Alexis, who is also a La Creole Board Member, and she worked so hard about putting this all together and putting a team together. So thank you to our team, Jeannie Ayler, Darlene Mason-Williams, Madeline Jex, who is also hospitality, so we have an extension of hospitality here. Thank you to the gentleman, the WYES, for being here today. Tara Margin Sutton, our newest board member, and Fatima Shaik, who is also a board member, and she'll also be presenting today. Thank you to our host site. Here we are at WYES, and Monica Joseph welcomed us and accommodated us so well. So thank you to everyone here. It's special to be in this space and place that supports local nonprofits, as you know, and does so much for the community. So special thanks to them. And to our member and who we call community liaison, who is Jennifer Kazair. Not sure if she made it, but she networked on our behalf and made the connection for us with WYES. And lastly, a special thanks to La Creole members who are here today. Raise your hand if you are a La Creole member, like official. Oh, well, great. Yes, wonderful. So your support and dedication goes, it's unmatched, and we always thank you for participating and being here at our in-person gathering. Board members, for your support. We have a few board members, some in town from Minnesota and New York, but if you're a board member, raise your hand. All right, thank you, board members. Welcome back home, as they say. And cheers again to all the guests and people who are here who registered and came through. We hope that this day and event is enjoyable for you and hopefully a support and inspiration to your family research.
Well, it's really so good to have you here today. It's been one of my dreams to have La Creole as a community partner, so I'm checking off my bucket list. Welcome to the studios of WYES. Again, my name is Monica Turner, and I'm the community outreach manager here. I must say that of all of the PBS events and functions that I put together, from literacy to STEM to from Sesame Street to Sid the Science Kid, I have never partnered with an organization that proves somehow, somewhere, some line, we're all cousins. And that will change the world. I mean, that is world changing. So I want y'all to give yourselves a hand for that. Our vice president was here. He had to leave. He had somewhere else to go. So that lets you know how important you are as a guest in our humble abode here at WYES. I want to thank my staff. Hey, Jonathan, he's on camera, and he's doing that for us, and the other staff that helped get this together. Mia, what can I say? You and your staff, your members, top-notch. Just know that you have a top-notch leadership at La Creole. I just wanted to let y'all know that.
So my name is Mia James Alexis, and I'm the program chair for La Creole. And it is indeed a pleasure to see all these beautiful faces here today, since we haven't seen each other in almost 2 years for this word called COVID, which we hope is on the downswing and we can get together more often. One of the things you did when you walked in was I had asked some people to write down surnames that they were researching as part of their family genealogy. And the reason that we're asking you to do that is because we're going to do what we call a call out. This is part of one of our signature pieces that we do in Coffee and Cousins. And the reason we do that is because sometimes you get that connection, and it actually helps you cross that threshold on research that you're doing, because you find out here's a long-lost cousin or someone who can help me break that part where I'm stuck. So what I'm going to do is ask some of our members to call out some of the names that they put on the board. And if any of those names are part of the names that you're researching, I would like you to raise your hand. And the reason for that, I want everyone to look around and see that you may have a connection, that we're going to have something at the end where we're going to break out. And so you may be able to get with them and start talking and have that, they may be able to give you some information that will help you. So without further ado, let's call out some of the names.
Alexis. LaSalle. Madison. Abate. Collins. DeQueer. Wilkes. Arno. James. Landry. Dunn. Lawless. Fort. Joubert. Harry. Larch. Shapiro. Amplemont. Larch came again. Davalier. Napon, sorry. Weatherstrand. Levy. Mejimol. Robillard. Butte. Pelletier. Gardier. Okay, this is my board, huh?
What? So are there any names we didn't mention that you would like to call out?
Lamont, Piku, Branch.
Ricard, Bean, with and without the S.
Bavier. Dauphin.
Okay.
K.R. F.A.Y.A.R.D.
Okay.
Varian,
Okay.
Supin,
Churro.
Supin,
Brion.
Pepin,
Fleury.
Okay.
Dufour.
Castanel.
Lard.
Yes, there's some index cards on the table. So if you would like to write some of those names down on the table, that would be great, because later on it will help us when we do the breakout session. So, without further ado, I have the esteemed honor of introducing our featured speaker, Ms. Fatima Shaik Little. She is an award-winning author whose current book, Economy Hall: The Hidden History of a Free Black Brotherhood, is the Louisiana Endowment Book of the Year in 2022. Yes. Ms. Shaik Little is a career journalist. She founded the communications department at St. Peter's University and taught as tenure faculty for 25 years. Today, she will share the techniques that she uses in her writing to assist you with the family history so that they can include unique facts, details, and descriptions in a structure that will engage the audience, whether they are family, friends, or publishers. So let's put a warm welcome together for Ms. Fatima Shaik Little.
Well, I feel very at home, thank you. It's nice to see all of these family and friends here. It's nice to be here among researchers and genealogists, family historians, and WYES, thank you, WYES. You know, a lot of us are doing so much. I can just talk to you a little bit, and I find so many stories. I hear so many stories, and I know we have a lot of information. All of us have a lot of information. So what I'm here today to do is to talk to you, to give you a little workshop about sort of how to put it into a narrative form, if you're interested in writing it, you know, to put it into a narrative form so that, as I think, that the eyes don't roll when you're sitting at the kitchen table and you're telling everybody, well, this one married that one married that. So, you know, so that you can put it into a narrative structure, so that you can tell that story to somebody, write that story down, which is really important, and maybe even get it published at some point, you know. I mean, it's up to us, because I know everybody in this room has looked, it's been really hard to find the information that you need. So, but we have it. We have it. We have it in our hearts. We have it in our minds. We actually have it. I'm going to talk to you about, we have it all around us. So what you want to do is to be able to put it out there for other people so they can know what we know, okay? All right, so let me get started. So let's start here. As I was telling you, the historical sources, you know, when I was coming up, everybody said, we can't find anything about free people of color or about the enslaved. There's no information. Information is everywhere. Information is everywhere. When you walk down the street, there's information. There's information. So your information, where's your information? Material culture, you know, that's a fancy way of saying what somebody built. Material culture. Bricklayers made the bricks. We know the bricklayers, right? You know, they built the houses. We know the people who built the houses. We know how they built the houses, why they built the houses, right? That's material culture. You know, material culture, it's in museums, it's in archives, right? Notarial archives has things like property records and enslavement records, who bought, who sold. The Louisiana State Museum has those birth certificates and death certificates, so there is information in archives. Genealogy sites, I'm sure we all go to Ancestry.com or something similar to find those things. Genealogy Bank, I found, is if you're not using Genealogy Bank, it's very good for newspapers. Put in a name and they'll find out whether it went into the newspaper. Sometimes you can trick it and don't even put in a name and just put in the thing that you wanted to know about, right? The place, and it'll pop up the place too. So it's all over, it's all over. That is our research, right? And I'm looking at research. I look at research, at least my particular research in Economy Hall, which I promoted with my little things on the table. I looked at this research through the lens of ethnicity, and I'm going to tell you why as we go on, right? You have the handouts you're going to have 2 handouts in your packet, but don't go in your packet just yet, because it's going to be too confusing. You can follow the PowerPoint, but in your packet is also a bit of information, another little handout from the National Museum of African American History and Culture. Jeannie has made some nice connections. Jeannie and maybe Betty made some nice connections with them, and they gave us an oral history handout. So if you would like to talk to your relatives, your older relatives, about their stories, it's like a checklist. Here are some questions you can use, and you can fill it out, okay? So that's in your package. You don't need it right now, but that is collecting more research, okay? But if you want to move from oral history, that's why I'm here for this workshop. If you want to move from oral history to your written history, turn the page. Writing as storytelling. Writing as storytelling. So let me just break down for you. I was like Mia said, I was a journalist for a long time. I've been a fiction writer for a long time. What I with Economy Hall was combine the two, right? What you want, we know storytelling generally, but what you want to do when you write something down is you want to have it in a certain structural form. The structural form is real easy. So if you just keep that in your mind all the time, okay, here's your structural form: a beginning, a middle, and an end. Beginning, middle, end. Real simple. Everything is beginning, middle, end. I'm saying, okay, so here's my story. I needed some bread. I walked to the grocery store. I bought the bread. I came home and I ate. There's a story, right? Very simple structure of a story. If I want to embellish it, now I'm going to make this story a little bit more interesting, right? I needed a loaf of stale bread because I wanted to make bread pudding. My mother used to make it all the time. Right? I walked to the store and I'm seeing the empty houses. I'm seeing the dogs barking, a lot of bad dogs. It was kind of farther than I remembered, or maybe I was kind of getting older and it just seemed farther. I got the bread after I retraced my steps. As I'm retracing my steps, the memories are flooding my mind. Good times, bad times. I made the bread pudding. It smelled so good, I felt like a child again. Okay? You see that story? Same story, beginning, middle, end. That's all it is, right? So what you want to do with your material culture, with your ancestry, and such, a lot of times we'll say, oh, you know, my grandmother, so-and-so, she lived at such and such a place, she did this, she had a farm. It's nice, but it doesn't have a structure to it, right? It doesn't have that beginning, middle, end thing. So I'm thinking you through it. This is what writers do. Writers, they may not even write it down yet, you know, after a while. You're just walking along and you're thinking what your structure is going to be. Okay? That's what we're saying. So, turn. Writing is storytelling. So what is the foundation? We can flip to the next page if you're doing it on the pages. The foundation of storytelling, oh, I can see it up there, is knowledge about a subject, right? Two parts in a story. The foundation is knowledge, and the other part is perspective, okay? So the foundation is the data and the information that you have. Some of this information you just have in your head. You know what bread pudding smelled like, right? You got that information in your head. How many bread puddings are made in New Orleans? You have no idea. You might have to look it up or get some kind of ballpark estimate, right? But it's a collection of data and it's a collection of information. The second is how you're going to interpret that information. What perspective are you going to take on that information? When I'm walking down the street, the perspective that I took on that information is I was older and I was a child, right? It gave me some perspective. I'm going to tell y'all, because I know y'all from labor and families, it's like the foundation of a house, right? You don't build your house without making your foundation. You can't make your foundation until you mix the cement. So we're mixing the cement right now. Okay, let's look at this next one. Okay, here's the house across the street from my house. Okay, I know that the people, I'm from the 7th Ward, I know that the people in the 7th Ward built their own houses. They were carpenters, they were plasterers, right? I want to write about this house. I want to write about the 7th Ward, okay? So look at if you can see, look at the combination of information and perspective that I used to write that paragraph, okay? The first thing I'm using are statistics, right? I got statistics from research. I had to do research. So when you think statistics, that came from research, right? Show that in the first decade of the 19th century, 2 out of 3 residents in New Orleans were colored, okay? Colored meaning the enslaved and the free people of color. Now, I'm going to stop us right there. That is perspective, okay? Why is that perspective? And I know y'all know this in your heart. It's perspective because everything that I had read up till the time I started writing this book said there were 3 classes or caste of people in New Orleans. I've heard that over and over and over. I said, what if I'm not looking at it like that? Perspective. I'm going to look at it from my perspective. I had actually, by the time I started writing, I've been traveling around and, you know, I've been back and forth from New Orleans. I grew up in segregation like a lot of you guys, right? But then I went away and I saw that being segregated is very different from being totally free like in another country, right? So I said, what if I looked at New Orleans statistics in terms of freedom or not freedom? Then my statistics are different, right? I'm looking at 2/3 of the people who are not free and 1/3 of the people who are entirely free. So when I'm looking at my statistics, I'm saying, and then I looked at the whole census from like 1810 to 1850, 2/3 of the people, you know, maybe 1840 about, 2/3 of the people were not free, 1/3 was free. I'm saying to myself, okay, how come 2/3 of the books that I'm reading are not about the unfree people? Why am I reading books that tell me about the government, the laws, the this, the that, But 2/3 of the people that were walking the streets are different. So you see perspective? Now I'm looking at statistics, raw statistics, but I'm looking at them in a very different way, okay? So I'm coming back to my house across the street. So statistics show that in the first decade of the 19th century, 2 out of 3 residents in New Orleans were colored. So now I'm saying, okay, 2/3, right? 2 out of 3 people in New Orleans are colored. Perspective. Almost half of these people were free, either no longer or never owned. I went back to my statistics again, and I saw that 45% of the black people in New Orleans were free for like 5 decades. Now, that's not a statistic you read when you're reading all this stuff that we've been reading, 45%, think about that, guys. In the rest of the country, by emancipation, by 1860, in the rest of the country, only 14% of the blacks in America were free. New Orleans had 45% of the blacks in America free before the Civil War. For 5 decades, we built the city, right? We built the city here. We had half of the people here. So when people talk about how New Orleans people don't appreciate or understand New Orleans and how New Orleans is a foundation for a lot of the legal things and all of the things that happened in civil rights later, this is why we had a very big literate population, okay? I'm not disparaging the enslaved in any way. I'm saying because we were all not free, all right? We were all not free, but we built it, okay? Anyway, that's perspective that you're gonna bring to your statistics. When you see your statistics, when you see your information, bring some perspective to it. Bring your perspective. Think about that person across the street who built that house, how they built it, what they did, what they thought about it. Okay, let's go on back to the house. Perspective. Almost half of these people were free, either no longer or never owned. Research. That came from my research because I went back to the statistics and I categorized them in a different way. Along with the enslaved, these free colored families built and occupied the wood and brick houses of the city. Perspective, right? That's not saying enslaved people lived in Treme. Freed people lived in Treme. I'm saying they occupied the houses. You see there's a difference between you occupying your house and you just living in your house? That's a perspective that I'm taking. These are people, and they are occupying and living, okay? They were already established community when the Louisiana Purchase occurred in 1803. Of course, I had to do my research to find out when the Louisiana Purchase was. I had to commit it to memory after a while. Research. Here, I have a style. I'll put in a little style. Their children and grandchildren participated in the flowering of the city, right? Instead of just created the city, they participated in flowering. The city flowered because of their participation, right? Okay. Which by the 1840s became one of the biggest and most important urban centers in the United States. If you read the census and stuff, that'll tell you that. Okay. The descendants lived in New Orleans more than 100 years later. All I have to do is look around this room, and I know that. We know that. And I know that from the people across the street. And this is actually my perspective of looking at the house across the street. Okay? So think about all this information that you have. You have people's addresses, you have their names, you have their birthplaces, you have the hospitals they were born in. You may have the car that they drove if they had the first cars or something. Now start looking at that at them as these human beings that did these things. Right? Take that perspective. These human beings, not these statistics or these names or this era. This is John walking down the street. My Uncle John walked down Bienville Street every day to pick up his bread. He picked up that bread because his mama was a baker or something. You see the story. It's a story, and it's not just a collection of facts. Okay, and that's what I'm working on with y'all today. Okay? Let me see what's next. Okay, how's my time? Okay, I'm doing good with time. Okay, so now look in your packet. You got some blank pieces of paper. You have 2 blank pieces of paper. All you really need is 1. Take out 1 blank piece of paper out of your packet, please. Okay. Now I'm going to be school teacher mama, right? School teacher. School teacher mama. Okay, here's what I want you to do. Has everybody got it? Got your pencil in your hand and got your paper out? Okay. I want you to divide your paper into 2 columns. You can fold it if you want to fold it, or you can put a line down the middle, or whatever you want to do, but make it 2 columns. I want you to think about a recipe or a dish that you had in your family. Now, before you start writing, You gotta trust me. All I want you to do is list. I don't want you to describe it, I'm gonna make it describe, I'm gonna make it describe it in a particular kind of way. I want you to think of a dish that you like I did bread pudding, right? Just, you could do bread pudding if you want. But I want you to list the 5 senses involved in this dish, okay? I don't want you to write sentences. I just want you to list. It smelled like rum, or it smelled sweet. It smelled sweet. It tickled my nose, right? Nose, okay? Smell, eye, mouth, ear, touch, okay? What did it smell like? What did it taste like? What did it look like? What did it, what am I missing? Sound like, right? What did it feel like? Okay, I'm gonna give y'all some time to do that, because I don't want you to go to the larger description yet. I just want you to give me the senses. It smelled like this. It tasted like that. The more specific you can be about that taste, the better off your descriptions are gonna be. And nobody's listening, nobody's gonna be perfect right now. But you ever think about water, right? What does water taste like? Sometimes it tastes metallic. It tastes like metal when it comes out the pipe, right? He said, my house, it tastes like metal. Somebody got a smell for me? Anybody have a smell? Okay. Garlicky, okay? Smelled garlicky. Anybody got a taste for me? Anchovy, okay, or spicy. Anybody got a sound of food? A gentle sizzle. Hey, nah. All right, okay. A gentle sizzle. What am I missing? Taste? Anybody got a taste? Sweet. A sweet. Buttery. Okay. Creamy. There you go. All right. What am I missing? Touch. Look. What did it look like? Brown. Okay. Toasty brown, right? And touch. Thick. Y'all see? You see what you got in your head already? All the data that you have already about these dishes. Now, if we had a lot of time, I'd go to the next step right here and say, what are the origins of that dish, right? If you're talking about gumbo, now you've described you've come into the pot, you see the pot, and it looks like this, it smells like that, it tastes like, right? Now, and when I'm going, then I see, and it tastes like it's full of okra, and it's just creamy, it's a little creamy, and I know that okra came from Africa, because the word okra comes from an African tribe, right? Okay, the word for okra in Africa is gumbo, right? So then you're going to give me the history of it. Now I'm on that. Now I'm walking right to the grocery store in that metaphor, right? Now I'm walking, okay. Then what is your relationship to that, right? Then if we had time, I'd call on everybody and I'd do and I'd hear the whole thing. But okay, so I've got my senses. I've got where its origins are. And I have my perspective on it, right? I walk into the kitchen, I see this sort of brown okra sizzling in the pot. It's a little creamy, because my mom used to like to make it thick. It smells like, I don't know what, it smells like spice. I know that it came from Africa because of Africa, and I feel my roots from Africa when I walk into that kitchen, right? My relationship to that is I know that this is my mother and my mother's people came from Africa, right? And that brings me to a place where I am in New Orleans, knowing where my roots are from. There's my story, right? There's my story. Actually, there's my scene. It's a beginning, it's a middle, and an end. Same thing that I'm telling you, beginning, middle, end. Okay. 6 minutes, 5 minutes, okay. All right. Flip your paper over. Flip your paper over. This is how you're gonna make your scene, your whole scene, like I just gave y'all. You know what your dinner is. We may not have time for me to write it all, but think about it. You got the paper, so you can go through the slides, after I'm gone away. But you know what your dinner is, or your recipe, or whatever it is you're writing about. You know how it came into your hands. Oh, thank you. I'm sorry. Flip paper. Okay. You know what the dinner is. You know how it came into your house. You know maybe where it came from, Africa, or where, right? You know what your family's need was. We needed to meet every Sunday, so we met. So you're going to write those things down. You're going to reverse it, and there's your beginning, middle, and an end, right? So if you know your dish is gumbo, You know your gumbo came to your table because your mama cooked it. You know your mama cooked it because it came from Africa, and that is her descendants. You can tell me a little bit about Africa. You know your family's need was to get together and celebrate their culture and history. So you're going to flip that over. There's your beginning, middle, and end. My family needed to get together every Sunday because we all lived in different parts of the city, right? We got together around the table. It was circular like Africa, right? It's circular like the African dinner table, right? My mother her family came from there. This is the dish we call gumbo, right? We eat it, we feel satisfied. Okay, y'all see it? Okay, cool. Okay, all right, reverse it. That is the process. This is the process. Now that you know it's so easy, okay, what you're gonna do that with every part of your story or your book, okay? With every part of your book, it's gonna be one scene after another. One scene is gonna be walking into the kitchen, sitting down, having your gumbo, right? With that whole process. The next scene will be walking out of the kitchen into the yard, sitting down on the step with your grandpa, right? He's chewing on a cigar, right? Okay, and then you're gonna describe that whole thing the same way you did that. You're gonna give that a beginning and a middle and an end. Then you leave your grandpa, you go over to your car and you lean against your car and all your neighbors come out and talk. You're gonna give that a beginning, a middle, and end, okay? What a story is one beginning, middle, and an end, after another beginning, middle, and end, after another, that's a scene. So each one of these was a scene. Getting to the house, the scene of the gumbo, the scene of the yard, the scene of the car, the scene of going home. The beginning, I got there. The middle, I did all of these things. The end, I went home. Y'all see it? That's simple, that's simple. But it takes mixing the cement, okay? You can't build a house till you mix the cement. This is the cement, okay? Now you can start. One more. Where's the magic? While you are mixing your cement and writing it down, putting all your little notes and then reversing them, at some part in your story that you're writing to yourself or for your family or whoever you're writing it for, you're gonna feel a little twinge. Okay? You're gonna feel something stir in you at some part in there that makes you a little nostalgic or makes you extra happy or something. That is your magic. Okay? That is your magic. That is what your story is about. That is what your story is about. When you feel that magic, you're gonna say, this story is not about gumbo. This story is about my mama. Okay? This is not a story about going to my mama's house. This is a story about my grandpa and his cigars from Cuba. Right? This is because you feel where the heart of it is. Then you're gonna go back to the stuff you did and you're gonna start the scene in another place. Then you're gonna start it on the porch with grandpa instead if it's grandpa's story. You're gonna start your scene there in grandpa, right? But that is the magic of it. You meditate on it and you say, well, what is it? This is the thing that I'm actually talking about. I'm talking about grandpa and his cigars. I'm talking about the history of my people coming from Cuba. Do you see how that's so very different from saying the Creoles came from Cuba came to Louisiana through Cuba, they came from San Domingo. Everybody can write that story, but only you can write the story about sitting on your step with your grandpa smoking his cigar that came from Havana. Only you can do that. That's why writers don't even worry about anybody's gonna steal your story. Don't worry about that. The only person that can write my story is me. The only person that can write your story is you. You know what that felt like, and you know what the magic of that is, okay? This is the central need. The need is the magic, and that is the need. I needed to talk to my grandpa, right? I needed to be with my mama. That's the need, remember? Need, try to get the need, and the thing. I'm done. I'm going to my last 2 slides. If y'all wait, engage, no, let me give it a little bit more. Always, one thing, okay, they're giving me the okay. Thank you, Tara. I should stop, but I'm gonna keep y'all attention for a couple more minutes. We always tell stories so that you can get it out of your, it's not, when we write things down, here's the thing. We're not writing them down for us. We write our journals for us. But when we write something down and want it to be published, we are writing it for other people, right? We want it to be known. So we always tell stories. Even when we're telling a story to somebody else, we're telling it because we want this person to know how human we are, what our humanity is, you know? You know, I did that the other day and I tripped down the stairs, right? We want them to know who we are, and we want to share it. We want to share that human experience. So stories, we write stories to share our human experience, and that is the the power that I feel in this room, you know? I mean, everybody in here has the authentic stories of that 2/3 of New Orleans that was not written about in the book. Y'all got it. You know, that's the power you have right here. So you're always going to address a universal theme. All the themes that I'm telling you about are things that, you know, I needed to be with my mom, I need to be with my grandfather. I'm not talking about the war, and I mean, the war is cool, you know, but I'm not talking about the Saint Domingue and then this and then that. I'm talking about my grandpa came from Saint Domingue. He had to get on the boat. He had to, you know. So that's the story I'm telling. But it's universal. Everybody's grandpa came from somewhere. Everybody's grandpa suffered. Everybody wants to be with their mom at some point or another, right? Okay. So we're going to our common experiences. That's what we're writing about, common experiences. And storytelling is an effort to make other people understand what we know. And I'm looking at this room, and there's a lot of knowledge in this room. And I'm happy we're doing the Coffee and Cousins, that we're sharing our experiences. And I thank everybody for being here.